Pain is not your enemy. It's your greatest teacher. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to transform your deepest struggles into your most powerful breakthroughs. But before we dive deep into this life-changing journey, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because you're about to discover the exact strategies that have helped millions of people worldwide turn their pain into unstoppable power. And trust me, you'll want to watch every single minute of this video to fully grasp the transformation that's waiting for you. Tony Robbins says that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. And right now, instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You need to start asking, how can this serve me? Because every single moment of pain in your life contains within it the seeds of extraordinary growth and power. According to Tony Robbins, most people run from pain. They avoid it, they numb it, they pretend it doesn't exist. But the people who create extraordinary lives, the people who build empires, the people who make massive contributions to the world, these are the people who have learned the sacred art of alchemizing their pain into pure power. Tony Robbins believes that your biography becomes your biology, meaning the story you tell yourself about your pain either empowers you or imprisons you. And the moment you change the story, you change your entire life experience. When Tony Robbins talks about turning pain into power, he's not talking about some superficial positive thinking or pretending that your struggles don't matter. He's talking about a fundamental shift in how you relate to challenge, how you interpret adversity, and how you use difficulty as the raw material for creating an extraordinary life. Tony Robbins says that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, and the difference between the two lies in the meaning you assign to your experience. According to Tony Robbins, every human being has experienced pain, but the people who thrive are the ones who ask better questions about their pain. Questions like, what is this teaching me? How is this making me stronger? What skills am I developing through this challenge? And how can I use this experience to serve others? Tony Robbins believes that your pain is not random. It's not meaningless. It's not a punishment from the universe, but rather it's a curriculum designed specifically for your growth. And when you embrace this perspective, everything changes. The first principle Tony Robbins teaches about turning pain into power is understanding that all growth happens outside of your comfort zone. And pain is simply life's way of pushing you beyond the boundaries of who you used to be into the person you're meant to become. Tony Robbins says that if you're not growing, you're dying. And growth requires challenge. Growth requires resistance. Growth requires you to face what you've been avoiding and transform it into strength. According to Tony Robbins, the people who have created the most significant breakthroughs in human history were not the ones who had the easiest lives, but rather the ones who faced the greatest challenges and found a way to use those challenges as fuel for their mission. Tony Robbins believes that your greatest gift to the world will come from your greatest pain, because it's through your struggles that you develop the empathy, the understanding, the wisdom, and the resilience necessary to help others who are facing similar challenges. When Tony Robbins talks about leverage, he often explains that emotional leverage is the most powerful force in human transformation, and pain provides the ultimate emotional leverage because it makes the cost of staying the same greater than the cost of changing. Tony Robbins says that people change when they associate enough pain with their current situation and enough pleasure with their new desired state. And this is why your pain, when properly channeled, becomes the rocket fuel for your transformation. According to Tony Robbins, the key to turning pain into power is not to deny your pain or minimize it, but to honor it, to acknowledge it, and then to consciously choose how you're going to use it. Tony Robbins believes that every emotion serves you, including painful emotions, because they're giving you information about what needs to change in your life, what boundaries need to be established, what actions need to be taken, and what growth needs to occur. The second principle Tony Robbins teaches is that the story you tell yourself about your pain determines whether it becomes your prison or your power, and you have complete control over the story you tell yourself. Tony Robbins says that it's not what happens to you that determines the quality of your life, it's what you do about what happens to you. And more specifically, it's the meaning you assign to what happens to you. According to Tony Robbins, you can take any experience, no matter how painful, and find an empowering meaning if you're committed to your growth and your contribution. Tony Robbins believes that victims focus on what was done to them, while leaders focus on what they can do with what happened to them. And this shift in focus is the difference between being powerless and being powerful. When Tony Robbins works with people who have experienced trauma, tragedy, or significant loss, he doesn't minimize their experience or tell them to just get over it. Instead, he helps them find a way to use their experience as a source of strength, wisdom, and service to others. Tony Robbins says that some of the most powerful people he knows are the ones who have been through the most difficult experiences, because those experiences force them to develop capabilities they never knew they had. According to Tony Robbins, resilience is not something you're born with, it's something you develop through facing challenges. And every time you overcome a difficulty, you build evidence for yourself that you're capable of handling whatever life throws at you. Tony Robbins believes that confidence doesn't come from avoiding challenges. It comes from successfully navigating challenges, and your pain provides you with the perfect opportunity to build unshakable confidence in your ability to handle anything. The third principle Tony Robbins teaches about turning pain into power is the importance of physiology in transformation, because he says that motion creates emotion, and when you're in pain, you must change your physical state to change your emotional state. Tony Robbins says that your physiology is your foundation, and when you're dealing with pain, the first thing you need to do is get your body moving, breathe deeply, stand tall, and literally embody the person you're becoming rather than the person you've been. Tony Robbins says that depression is often just a result of poor physiology, shallow breathing, hunched posture, and lack of movement. And when you change your physiology, you immediately begin to change your psychology. Tony Robbins believes that your body teaches your mind, so if you want to feel powerful, you need to move powerfully. If you want to feel confident, you need to carry yourself confidently. And if you want to transform your pain into power, you need to embody power in your physical presence. When Tony Robbins talks about state management, he emphasizes that you have the ability to change your state in an instant by changing your physiology, your focus, and your language, and this is crucial when you're working with painful experiences. Tony Robbins says that state is everything, because the state you're in determines the decisions you make, the actions you take, and the results you create. So learning to manage your state is essential for transformation. According to Tony Robbins, peak performers in every field have learned to condition themselves to access resourceful states regardless of external circumstances. And this is exactly what you need to do with your pain. Tony Robbins believes that you can't control what happens to you, but you can always control your response to what happens to you. And your response is determined by your state. The fourth principle Tony Robbins teaches is the power of asking quality questions, because he says the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself consistently. Tony Robbins says that when you're in pain, your brain is naturally going to ask disempowering questions like, why me? Why now? How could this happen? But these questions don't serve you because they don't lead to solutions or growth. According to Tony Robbins, you need to consciously redirect your focus by asking empowering questions like, how can I grow from this? What can I learn? How is this making me stronger? What skills am I developing through this challenge? And how can I use this experience to serve others? Tony Robbins believes that your brain is like a computer, and it will answer whatever question you program into it. So if you ask limiting questions, you'll get limiting answers. But if you ask empowering questions, you'll get empowering answers. When Tony Robbins works with people in crisis, he immediately begins shifting their focus by changing the questions they're asking themselves, because he knows that where focus goes, energy flows, and results show. Tony Robbins says that successful people ask better questions, and as a result, they get better answers and live better lives. And this principle is especially important when dealing with pain and adversity. According to Tony Robbins, the difference between people who use their pain as an excuse and people who use their pain as fuel is simply the questions they ask themselves about their experience. Tony Robbins believes that every problem contains within it the seeds of an equal or greater opportunity, but you can only see the opportunity if you ask the right questions. The fifth principle Tony Robbins teaches about turning pain into power is the importance of finding your compelling future, because he says that people can endure almost any pain if they have a strong enough why. Tony Robbins says that when you're clear about your mission, your purpose, your contribution, and the future you're committed to creating, your current pain becomes simply the price you're willing to pay for that future. According to Tony Robbins, a compelling future pulls you through your pain. It gives you the strength to endure, the motivation to persist, and the resilience to keep going when everything in you wants to quit. Tony Robbins believes that without a compelling future, people get stuck in their pain. They become victims of their circumstances, and they lose the will to grow and contribute. When Tony Robbins talks about the driving force behind all human behavior, he identifies the need for growth and contribution as the two highest human needs, and your pain can fuel both these needs if you have a clear vision for your future. Tony Robbins says that growth and contribution are the only ways to experience true fulfillment, and your painful experiences often reveal exactly how you're meant to grow and contribute. According to Tony Robbins, many people discover their life's purpose through their pain, because their struggles give them unique insights, wisdom, and compassion that they can then share with others facing similar challenges. Tony Robbins believes that your mess can become your message, your test can become your testimony, and your pain can become your purpose if you're willing to transform it into service to others. The sixth principle Tony Robbins teaches is the importance of modeling excellence, because he says that success leaves clues, and if you want to turn your pain into power, you need to study people who have done exactly.
Tony Robbins says that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, you don't have to figure everything out on your own, because there are people who have faced similar challenges and found ways to transform them into strength. According to Tony Robbins, modeling is the fastest way to accelerate your results, and when you're dealing with pain, finding the right models can save you years of struggle and show you exactly how to transform your experience. Tony Robbins believes that every successful person has faced significant challenges, and by studying their strategies, their mindset, their decisions, and their actions, you can learn to apply the same principles to your own situation. When Tony Robbins talks about heroes, he often points out that heroes are not people who never face adversity, but people who face adversity and choose to use it as fuel for growth and contribution. According to Tony Robbins, throughout history, the people who have made the greatest contributions to humanity are the ones who have overcome the greatest obstacles, and their examples prove that pain can indeed be transformed into power. According to Tony Robbins, you need to surround yourself with examples of people who have turned their pain into power, because what you focus on expands, and when you focus on examples of transformation, you begin to see possibilities for your own transformation. Tony Robbins believes that inspiration is not enough. You need to study the specific strategies and systems that successful people use to transform their challenges into advantages. The seventh principle Tony Robbins teaches about turning pain into power is the importance of taking massive action, because he says that the way to deal with pain is not to think about it more, but to act your way into a new way of being. Tony Robbins says that action is the antidote to despair, and when you're in pain, the fastest way to change your experience is to take immediate, massive, and consistent action toward your goals. According to Tony Robbins, most people get stuck in analysis paralysis when they're dealing with challenges. They overthink, they overanalyze, they get trapped in their heads, but breakthrough comes through action, not analysis. Tony Robbins believes that you can't think your way out of pain, but you can act your way out of pain by taking actions that are aligned with the person you're becoming rather than the person you've been. When Tony Robbins works with people who are struggling, he immediately gets them to commit to specific actions they will take, because he knows that action creates momentum, momentum creates confidence, and confidence creates results. Tony Robbins says that massive action is the cure for all fear, all doubt, and all pain, because when you're taking action toward your compelling future, you don't have time to dwell on your problems. According to Tony Robbins, the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is not that successful people don't face challenges, it's that they take action in spite of their challenges. Tony Robbins believes that your actions in moments of challenge determine your destiny, and every action you take is either moving you toward your goals or away from your goals. The eighth and final principle Tony Robbins teaches about turning pain into power is the importance of contribution, because he says that the secret to living is giving, and when you use your pain to help others, you transform it into your greatest gift. Tony Robbins says that there is no greater fulfillment than knowing that your struggles have been used to help someone else overcome their struggles, and this is how your pain becomes your purpose. According to Tony Robbins, when you shift your focus from your own pain to how you can use your pain to serve others, everything changes, because now your pain has meaning. Now your pain has value. Now your pain becomes a source of power rather than a source of suffering. Tony Robbins believes that every great leader, every great teacher, every great contributor has learned to transform their personal pain into universal service, and this is the ultimate expression of turning pain into power. When Tony Robbins talks about legacy, he emphasizes that your legacy is not what you accumulate for yourself, but what you contribute to others, and your pain can become the foundation of your greatest contribution. Tony Robbins says that people don't remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel. And when you've transformed your pain into wisdom, compassion, and service, you have the power to make others feel hope, strength, and possibility. According to Tony Robbins, the greatest gift you can give someone who is struggling is proof that their struggle can be overcome, and you provide that proof by sharing your story of transformation. Tony Robbins believes that your pain is not just about you, it's preparation for your service to others. And when you embrace this perspective, your entire relationship with pain changes from victimhood to leadership. So remember, as Tony Robbins always says, it's not what happens to you, but what you do about what happens to you that determines the quality of your life. And today, you have learned the 8 principles that will allow you to transform any pain into unstoppable power. Understanding that growth happens outside your comfort zone, changing the story you tell yourself about your pain, using physiology to change your state, asking quality questions, creating a compelling future, modeling excellence, taking massive action, and using your experience to contribute to others. Tony Robbins says that life is not about avoiding storms, it's about learning to dance in the rain. And now you have the tools to not just survive any storm, but to use that storm to become stronger, wiser, and more powerful than you ever thought possible. According to Tony Robbins, the moment you decide that your pain will serve your growth rather than stop your growth, you transform from victim to victor, from survivor to thriver, from someone who is acted upon to someone who acts. And that decision, that shift in perspective, that commitment to transformation is the beginning of your journey from pain to power. Tony Robbins believes that inside every adversity is an equal or greater benefit. Inside every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Inside every moment of pain is the potential for breakthrough. And now you know exactly how to access that potential and turn it into the power that will fuel your extraordinary life.